Welcome back, Flyers Nitty Gritty fans, to Getting Gritty with It with your host, Wolok, my partner in crime, as always, joining me for a special Christmas Eve episode. Merry Christmas to everybody listening. Vasili, Gianarakos. Vasili, how's it going, brother?
Doing well, like you said, Christmas Eve, so really can't get any better than this. Off work myself for a little bit until the new year, so it's always good during this time to kind of spend it with family, recharge, and I'm sure everybody's feeling the same, right? Always a busy year and busy time leading into Christmas, but yeah, good to get the time off, obviously. And when we, think about hockey and what's kind of been happening with the Flyers the last few weeks, I think there's been a lot of frustration surrounding the team that's kind of been culminating. Some lesser teams they probably should have beaten the last few weeks, but I don't think we can ask for a better Christmas gift from our Philadelphia Flyers, heading into tomorrow with them being sixth right now in the league in points percentage with the 6.25 points percentage. So if you look at it and you just look at how the team's performing this season, right? Like I think most pundits had them projected to be last in the Metropolitan Division or even second last. And right now, I mean, they're second in the Metro. Like I said before, sixth in terms of winning percentage overall in the league. And I think just in general for this team, like they could potentially have even been tied for first in the Metro division, right? If they eke out some of those overtime wins instead of having them become losses. So I think when you put that all into perspective, the way the Flyers have played, for the first 36 games here, we really can't complain. Like there's certain things you can pick on that you might want to say, okay, this could be handled better. Maybe certain things with the coaching staff, for example. But the way I look at it, this team has surpassed all expectations in my eyes so far.
Yeah, man. Definitely the best way to enter the holiday. It was a tumultuous few games, right? Like you said, because they kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit. And that was a little painful to watch. But overall, just to end up in this position, and they had the opportunity, obviously, to fumble it. Like maybe teams of the past maybe would have fumbled the game before the holiday, but this time they didn't. So it was kind of like really nice to we don't have to stress out about this at all over the holiday. We can just enjoy it, right? We can take a step back, just enjoy it, rest on it for a few days. Nobody's playing. Any injuries, we'll talk about that, can have some time to mend.
Yeah,
So overall, just a really nice way to enter the holiday, right? Like you said, it's
de
a nice
def
gift.
definitely. And I think if you look at it, right, going back to that Sabres game on the 18th, they lose 5-3. They're up in that game. It's frustrating. I think it's one we all thought that they probably could have closed it on one. Same with the Rangers game on the 20th, right? They're up in that game, end up losing in a shootout. And I think teams of the past, like Flyers teams of the past, going in playing some lesser teams with the Canucks on the 22nd and the Blackhawks last night, like they might have, to your point, Yariv, took those Sabres and Rangers losses kind of to heart. They might have probably came out in those Vancouver Blackhawks games and maybe not have been as sharp or let those games kind of get to them. But this team didn't do that. They rebounded. They were able to close out with two back-to-back wins. And I think if you're looking at, how young this Flyers team is and how they're trying to kind of learn how to win and kind of close out games, Rick Tocchet's mentioned that, they have two issues against the Rangers and Sabres closing out games, but then they come right back and are able to do so and close games out in dominating fashion against lesser opponents that they should beat, right? So I think if you're looking at a team that's kind of learning how to win and learning how to close out games, these last two games are really good signs, I would say.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. So before we get into all the good topics we have to talk, because we got a lot of topics to talk about today. Just want to remind everybody, please like and subscribe, hit the notification bell for notifications, get notified when we release these episodes. And for the audio version, go to Spotify and iTunes and give us a rating and a follow if you can. Haven't received a rating on any of the audio stuff for a while, so if somebody could, if you're listening and you haven't done that, that would be
Yeah, go to
awesome.
Spotify, go to Apple Music, rate our stuff. That's
Five
how
stars
people,
if you
yeah,
can.
I mean, rate it really whatever you want,
It's
but
true,
that's
but
how people will find us, right? If you're listening to this and you don't like our videos, you don't rate our stuff, and you want us to get bigger and kind of have more of an audience, that's how you can help us out, right? Like we don't do this for any money. We do this out of the goodness of our heart outside of our working
And
regular day
obsession
jobs. Yeah.
and our own
So
personal obsession. But
so,
yeah.
try to support us if you can. We really appreciate it. That'll be a great Christmas gift for us here at Flyers Nitty Gritty, just to get
Yeah.
a like.
Yeah,
So
what Vasili and I talk about all the time is our reward for doing this is therapy. Is like this has become the Flyers therapy sessions for us, where everybody else has to vent online, like on X or whatever, we get to vent on here, which
yeah,
I
because
definitely like more.
at least for me lately, Twitter's just become too much.
It's a
So
cesspool,
I
dude.
just, yeah, if people have kind of seen me and my Twitter footprint kind of slowly diminish over the
You're
last
following
four or
my
five
steps.
months,
Yeah.
well, it's just there's not much for me to say. Like I don't want to argue into an abyss with nonsense, so might as well just let my thoughts out on this podcast and
I
yeah,
just drop my bombs and then I walk away.
the way to do
I
it.
make a post and then I just walk away. I go, okay. I'll comment like if somebody is like respectful, I will answer them. But when people are just like giving me these facetious responses, I'm going to talk about one of them. I'm not calling out the person by name or anything, but I'm going to talk about the concept that they brought up earlier and how dumb it is. I just don't have patience to like to write you out a whole thing, because it's like
Yeah.
it's um it's a losing battle on there. Let's be honest. Um, so this is definitely more appropriate. Also, shout out to our sponsor, Jim Steaks at Fourth and South. Make sure to go get yourself a cheesesteak from Jim's. They have one of the best, if not the best, cheesesteak in Philadelphia. Make sure to go to Jim Steaks at Fourth and South. Also, Summit Public Adjusters, 215-752-0560. Go to them for your insurance adjustment needs. They will help facilitate the process between you and your insurance company. Make sure you get the best claim possible. Again, Summit Public Adjusters, 215-752-0560. And also want to give a brief shout out to our partner, SportsSpider.com. Guys, if you're tired of searching multiple websites for sports news, SportsSpider.com has you covered. They collect the latest articles, videos, and podcasts from around the web and organize them by your favorite teams. If you want to stay as up to date on our Philadelphia Flyers or the NHL in general, hit the link in the description. Check out sportspider.com. Again, the link is available both in the video and audio versions of this podcast. And our stuff, once again, is pinned at the top. And always make sure to go to flyersnittygritty.com. Okay, so you said it perfectly earlier. So as of right now, the Philadelphia Flyers enter the holiday break with the sixth best winning percentage in the National Hockey League, the second best winning percentage in the East, and second place in the Metro overall. It is a tenuous, it's a small gap between the opposition, but it is a gap nonetheless, and they've earned it. And that's that kind of goes clear cut across the board outside of a couple teams in the West. Nobody really has a large gap. In fact, of the top six teams, only two of them are from the East. Carolina being fourth overall, Flyers being sixth, Vegas being fifth, Minnesota third, Dallas second, and Colorado with a large lead at first overall. They are by far the best team in the league so far this season during the regular season. So pretty exciting stuff. And I want to bring up that comment that I heard online where somebody was like, and I'm pretty sure the person was, I looked up their profile, I think it said Boston, Massachusetts. So not even a Flyers fan. But I still want to address this because I know it's been going around. So the Flyers have as many losses as they do wins. At least that was said prior to these last two wins in a row. So the Flyers have 10 losses in regulation, 7 losses in overtime. So by that logic, Vegas has less wins than they do losses. They're fifth in the league in point percentage. Carolina and Minnesota has 6 wins more than their losses. Like, you understand when you start putting out this bullshit logic to try to make yourself feel better, pretty much all of the teams in this top half of the team outside of 3 have a very small difference between their losses and wins. They're not like just straight up losses. Like, I know I've heard it, and I heard
They're close
Jason.
games. They're
Yeah,
close
but
games, right?
well, I heard Jason Martinez say this too, that he still views them as losses. Like, yeah, okay, I do agree with that, but this is a obviously a nuanced thing. This is a game typically that couldn't be done in regulation, which means they were competitive enough to get it to overtime. Where a team like Anaheim has two overtime wins, 14 regular season losses. That means 14 of the games that they've played, they're not in it.
Yeah, they're losing in regulation. They're not in that situation to force it to overtime, obviously. So I think to your point, like it's not just the Flyers that are a team kind of relying on some overtime shootout points to kind of put them in this place, right? Like you have Vegas who has, 10 losses in overtime in the shootout, like you mentioned. You have Montreal that has five. You have a couple other teams, Minnesota six. So you have a couple pretty good teams that have some overtime shootout losses as well. I think to be honest, it's something to take as a positive because a lot of those overtime games, it's against some of the upper echelon teams like your Carolinas, like your Vegases, like your Stanley Cup kind of contending
You're absolutely right.
teams, essentially. So if you're looking at it from the Flyers' perspective, they're a young team. Just to be able to hang in with some of those upper echelon teams, I think that's a bonus. And I also think you're getting into this point where, hey, these are close games. You kind of want the Flyers to be in these games. So even if they're losing in overtime, at least it's an experience that they can take away and say, well, what do we do next time to maybe not blow that lead in the third period or not let up the gas to allow it to get to an overtime so we can actually close it out in regulation. So I think, it's still a really young team that the Flyers are. So I think we just got to be cognizant that they're going to be learning still here and taking things into account to try to better themselves in the second half. Like I think we have to look at it too. Like they start off so well, they're sixth in the league in points percentage. And one thing that I look at really is other than, the goaltending with Vladar being such a huge factor as to why they've, been competitive in all these games and Trevor Zegras, a lot of the younger guys have taken steps forward, right? Like Noah Cates having a really good season. Bobby Brink, contributing on that third line, regularly having a great season. Cam York, Jamie Drysdale, right? Like I can go down the list, but a lot of the contributors this season are guys that maybe had a season last season that we didn't like, such as a York, or guys that we know that we needed more from, like a Drysdale, like a Cates, like a Brink. We want to
I
see them
think you
kind of
can
take that
include
next step, right?
Andre in that too,
Yeah, I forgot Andre, but
who
yeah, to your
who's
point,
also stepped his game up. I mean, you can go
down the
around the board,
list.
yeah, around the list, and it's been a complete team effort, and that I think is the most encouraging part. That it's not one guy carrying the team. I say this all the time, and I don't believe the Flyers are a championship team, but to win a championship, you need an entire good team.
You need
You,
depth,
you
right?
don't win because, oh, you got that number one center, so you were the best team in the league. That does not work that way. This is a team sport. That one great player only plays typically between 20 and 25 minutes a night. So the rest of the time, right, there are other players playing, and that's opportunities to get scored on, to give up to not score at all, to give up opportunities to lose momentum, to take bad penalties. So this has been a team effort, and even a team like the Sabres, right, of late. I mean, they've won seven in a row, and we talk about the Flyers shot themselves in the foot. I mean, among that span, yes, they beat some struggling teams as well, but they beat Edmonton 4-3 in overtime. They beat Vancouver 3-2. They beat Seattle 3-1. They beat the Flyers 5-3. They beat the Islanders 3-2 in overtime. They beat the Devils 3-1, and then last night, or I'm sorry, the night before they beat Ottawa 3-2. So it's like, this team that the Flyers kind of shot themselves in the foot. They probably should have won that game against Sabres. They're on a roll right now. Like it's not, they're not losing to bad teams majority of the time. And even, the Rangers, where they kind of blew that game also and got a point in overtime. The Rangers went on to beat Washington. I think it was last night,
Oh,
7.
that was a crazy game. Like they
It was like
were
7-3 or something.
Washington was up. It was 3-3 and the Rangers just exploded for a bunch of goals and win. And sometimes, you have good teams that could collapse in the third period. I think for the Flyers, like it's kind of what I mentioned beforehand. Like they're still a young team. they've had an issue this season keeping leads and kind of learning how to keep those leads. But I really take this last Vancouver and Blackhawks game as a step forward because they were in situations similar to those other games where, hey, they could have blown leads. Vancouver put some pressure on them, scored a goal to kind of cut the lead to 2 goals, and then the Flyers respond right away and kind of score right after that. Like, I think just learning to kind of put your foot on the gas and when not to kind of be so tentative. I think maybe that was probably an issue for them earlier where they were blowing these leads, where they'd have the lead, they'd kind of be tentative in their play. They're not continuing their play from the first and second period and kind of continuing the pressure. But I think this
Yeah.
team is kind of learning that in this NHL, comebacks are really easy for teams to kind of spark when the momentum is going in their way. And I think this team is starting to learn that when we have a lead, even though we can't go full balls to the wall offense all the time, we need to still be able to put some sustained pressure on the other team, because us just backing up into our own zone and kind of letting them control play in the puck, it's just not something that's going to be a
It's not
recipe for
effective.
success when you're
Yeah.
trying to, defend a lead, right? So I think they're learning that we can't turtle. We have to be smart defensively. We can't take certain chances on the rush like we might have taken in those first couple periods when the game was tied, when we only had, a 1 goal lead, but we can still, use our forecheck game. We can still have the puck in the offensive zone and, not let up that way to kind of keep the pressure on and keep the leads, right? So I think the last 2 games for me, that's what we saw, right? Like they had against the Blackhawks, that late penalty and that late kind of push the Blackhawks had, like that Flyers team maybe of 2-3 months ago, maybe they would have let the Blackhawks score, but they don't, right? So I think even like looking at that game against the Blackhawks, like that's a huge character win, right? Back to back game, Blackhawks are a rested team. The Flyers come in and they essentially dominate, right, against the rested team. I know they're missing Bedard and missing Nazar, but like that's what you want to see from a good team. Even though they are on a back-to-back, they have the ability to still close it out against a team that's kind of lesser than them, and that the Blackhawks were, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to give a credit to John Tortorella a little bit because while it is kind of culminating under Rick Tocchet, I do believe the groundwork laid by John Tortorella in that resilience that we talked about building. Like if you remember when he took over and Elaine Vigneault was coach, and obviously the roster was very different at the time, this team did have a tendency to kind of roll over and die. And that identity has slowly been taken out of the current Flyers core. And you saw even when Tocchet kind of took over this team, they were doing it from the very beginning of the season. Now they're becoming more refined in their ability to do
Yeah,
it
yeah.
on a regular basis. So it just shows how this really is an ongoing process with what Vasili and I talk about all the time. People want these quick fix solutions. It's just not the reality. Majority of the times it takes time, it takes seasons, it takes culture change, it takes incremental additions to the roster over time, which the Flyers have finally done, and we're seeing the results of that. And speaking of additions, I think there has been a Ristolainen effect as well. People know I've been talking about him coming back for a while now. He's played 5 games. He only has 1 assist, but he's obviously been an impact on the ice, physically noticeable right off the bat, right against the Sabres, just every game throwing crushing hits,
Some big hits against the Sabres and Rangers, yeah.
suffocating players in the corner, like doing what I believe this team was immensely missing was defensemen that could do that. Like Sanheim's pretty strong, but he's not a big body checker. Really, the only guy we had was Nick Seeler. You can make a case for Noah Juleson. Neither one of them are as big as Ristolainen or as talented. So I think he's been a tremendous impact. And obviously that led to Igor Zamula getting waived now. So the Flyers clearly feel more comfortable with this crop where they don't even technically need an 8th defenseman right now because they're like, oh, Juleson's the guy, right? Like we've selected him as the guy who rotates in now. We don't really need to rotate guys. These are our 6, right? And Risto has really solidified that. And
Uh,
I really love the way that he's looked and the way he's impacted the team. And I think it's just the beginning. Like, again, he's missed a ton of time. So I expect him to get better as the season rolls on.
Well, he's obviously just working into form, right? Like
Yeah.
he's just getting back up to speed in terms of game speed. I think it's a good time though for him to kind of return
Yep.
because you get 5 games before the break to kind of get back up to regular speed for him at least, and then everybody has a little bit of a break and you kind of all come back on the same page after the breaks. I think it was good to get him games and just get
Totally.
accustomed and back to kind of feeling himself out there. And I think, there was a little bit of rust sometimes with the puck handling, but we're kind of seeing that wear off. And for me with Ristolainen, it's just the ability to kill plays with his size and his stick, like his reach. he has such a long reach that it doesn't, for me, like that's such a huge part of defending, right? As a defenseman, guys that are big with those long reaches, like you could really break up plays that some other guys just don't have the ability to do, especially when guys are kind of coming over the blue line. Like he has the ability to really gap up with the reach, and that's, I think, something the team's been missing just in terms of like trying to not let up so many scoring chances off the rush, which I think they've gotten better at, since Tocchet's took it over here. I think too, to your point, like going into after the break, like if you look at the way this team has kind of established itself, right? They had not a slow start, but they started pretty well, kind of getting accustomed to Tocchet's system. They had a little bit of a lull the last couple of weeks in terms of just blowing leads, losing some games. I just think a lot of these younger players in the team right now, they're kind of hitting their strides in season, especially Zegras, Cates, York, Drysdale, for example. I just think with these younger players, like there's going to be a lot of confidence that has been built up just through these first 36 games, and they still haven't really learned Tocchet's system to the fullest and implemented it, I would imagine, effectively just with the new coach and everything. It takes some time. So going into the second half, you have guys, first of all, building on confidence from their strong first halves here, and then you're going to have a team that's more accustomed to the system that they've just learned to play. I just think it bodes well for them being able to continue this success, right? I think like with that confidence, with getting more accustomed to the system, they're going to be able to, get even more out of kind of what Tocchet's been trying to put in and implement. So
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm excited about that. It's like it almost makes the injury to Tyson Forster a little bit more painful in a way because like the impact of the size and the strength that Forrester had along the boards and in the offensive zone and with his stick and his reach. It's like, and you look at where the team is today, and I truly believe, like in my gut, that Forrester is evolving into be a star player in the league. And, you look at the impact that he would have had this team as the season rolled on. It's like, where would this team have been if they were fully healthy? But having said that, where would Florida be if they were fully healthy, right? It's like other teams are dealing with their injuries. And this is what good teams have to learn to do is that next man up, statement. It is very true. There is obviously a line where it kind of crushes your team, but there's also that fine line of finding other guys. And we're going to talk about one of those other guys. And, in a minute here, but I do want to talk about the fourth line first because I think that also has been a factor of late. So obviously, Garnet Hathaway has been scratched now, a couple games in a row. They formed a new fourth line, Grundstrom on the left side, who has been, let's be honest, very good in his
five
redemption
goals in
story.
10 games. He's on pace for 40 goal season.
Right, yeah. Just a really solid bottom six performance to the point where he's been able to slide up and down the lineup and be effective playing, in penalty kill situations. He's just a much better skater than the guys we had on the fourth line prior to that. And then obviously now Gurbenkin finding some serious success with a 2-point night. That fourth line, obviously, a big part of the win in Vancouver. Obels looks more effective with more speed on his wing than what he was provided with prior to that. And just the fourth line in general, I think Obels in general has been relatively solid, but he's been kind of being asked to do a lot when it's like Delorier, who has zero offensive
And
abilities at this
Hathaway, yeah.
point, and Hathaway, who's just in complete struggle session in his career. Having said that, he's getting up in age. He's a bottom line player in the league. So it's like,
Regression can happen sometimes at the age that he's at, right? So
right. Yeah. So, but the new fourth line has been highly effective. And I got to say, the icing on the cake is to see Gurbenkin out there now regularly. You're not questioning whether he's going to play the next game. He seems to at least solidified a spot in the lineup. And what's the nicest part is that it's a fourth line that can produce, right? Like they
yeah,
can produce some offense. They have been. They're still just as reliable defensively as they were with Hathaway and Delorier or whatever mix they wanted to have. But this way, yeah, you lose some of that reliability with Gurbankin being a younger guy, but he's got that pop, right? He's got the offensive pop to kind of compensate. And with Grundstrom out there with his speed, it's been really nice. I think most people are. This is kind of what we were waiting for, and I imagine the Flyers might still be looking for a depth fourth line guy, regardless of this success. But this definitely makes it less of a need when you see it kind of coming together over the past few games.
yeah, the fourth line is night and day from what we saw to start the season, right? Like if you just compare the fourth line that was being put out there for majority of the games, right? Like you get Gurbankin slid in there once in a while, but to be honest, majority of the season so far, it's been Abels, Hathaway,
And D'Lo,
Delorier,
yeah.
and the thing with that line and kind of what you mentioned about Abels having a bit of a struggle and kind of looking better with Grunstrom and Gurbankin, what I think it is honestly Hathaway and Delorier kind of being anchors to him, not anchors in the sense that they can't do like a decent job at like a chip and chase play type of game, dumping it in, trying to not get killed in their own end. Not They weren't really giving up a lot of goals, but they weren't scoring or really doing anything for you positively either. I just think those three together just way too slow out there. Like they were always 2-3 seconds behind the puck, 2-3 seconds behind the play, 2-3 seconds behind the forecheck, and you just can't be effective that way. They're always chasing when they're out there, typically, when it was that iteration of the fourth line, where this is the opposite. We have now with Grunstrom, Gurbankin, and Abels, you have two guys flanking Abels who isn't the fleetest of foot, that are better skaters. So you kind of see them using their speed more. They're able to get in on the forecheck a lot quicker, able to get the loose pucks a lot quicker. They can actually sustain pressure in the offensive zone. And we're seeing it kind of culminate, right? Like that Vancouver game. They basically get the win because of that fourth line. That's their MVP line in that game. Gurbankin with some filthy hands, with one of the setups there. And yeah, like the way I look at it, and how this fourth line was kind of deployed beforehand, you could see that Rick Tocchet wasn't, not to say scared to use them, but he wasn't really able to roll them out there truly like you're rolling four lines. Whereas now with this fourth line, you could actually roll your four lines adequately and not have to rely so much on your top three lines. And I think as the season goes along and you're in this condensed schedule, it's something you're going to
Huge.
need to continue to be
Yeah.
competitive. So I think it's really good they've kind of found these combinations. And they've put together kind of a line here where you can actually give them like a decent amount of ice time. I believe against the Blackhawks, Grunstrom had 13 minutes. I think Abels had 11. Gurbankin had 11. And then against the Canucks as well, the minutes, yeah, Gurbankin has 12 minutes against the Canucks. Grunstrom 12 minutes. Abel's 14 minutes. So I think if you can play your line around that like 11 to 13 minute range and kind of take some of the pressure off your top three lines because they can actually sustain a forecheck, they can actually get in there and maybe create something for your offensively. It's not like a net negative like the prior fourth line was. I just think it allows your team's depth to be so much more efficient, where it's just like, hey, the other teams knew, hey, when that fourth line is out there, we really don't have to worry about anything
And
because they can't create offensively, right?
I love that point, Vasili, because the victories a lot of time at the highest level when you're playing really good teams or at the NHL level,
It
it's
comes down
found
to that depth, yeah.
it comes down to those incremental differences, right? Look at that game against Chicago where it's a tough schedule, right? Flying to Chicago, late game, right before the holiday, it's a trap game. Because of their ability to play the fourth line, they were less gassed as a team for the following game. So I
Yeah.
love what you were just saying there about the minutes there, because that is that sustainability. And like you said, we're gonna have really condensed after the holiday to the Olympic break, and then again condensed after the Olympic break going into the playoffs. So it's going to be key. And it does, luckily the Flyers have depth at the lower level too, to maybe even improve this team a little bit more. Before we get to the guy I want to talk about, I do want to bring up one thing that's not on our show notes. We don't have anything for special teams, but I do want to talk about it real quick. So the Flyers special teams were obviously kind of crumbling a little bit, when they weren't like struggling mightily, but they were losing games in overtime. They were blowing leads. So the power play obviously had two goals in that game against Vancouver, which was really important. Or I'm sorry, against the Rangers. So it helped a little bit. Their power play now sits at 16.8%. That's 23rd best in the league. Still not amazing, but it kind of stems the continuous drop where they were kind of inching their way towards the bottom of the league. So not too bad when you look at it that way. And then the penalty kill, and there was some nice mobility on there, and obviously a power play goal last night as well helped. And then the penalty kill is now here it is, ninth best in the league. So moving up again, where they were top five for the majority of the season. 82.5%. That's 0.1% behind seventh and eighth seed Dallas and Nashville. So you can almost bucket that in together because it's like almost identical percentages. So right around competitively seventh percent, but ideally, realistically at ninth. And then if you really look at it, they're 1 percentage point away from entering the top five. So they just need to go on a good run with the penalty kill again, get that cleaned up, and they'll be right back top five again. I mean, it could obviously go the opposite way. But overall, the special team issues are kind of quelling themselves a little bit, which was a big concern for me. And I think that's
Yeah.
part of the recent success as well.
I would say the first couple of weeks of December, we kind of saw the power play dip a lot.
Yeah.
Same with the penalty kill, and that kind of led to a lot of the losses. And I would say that led to some of the blown leads as well, right? Like teams capitalizing on the power play when the Flyers penalty kill earlier in the
That
season probably.
Rangers goal to tie the
Yeah,
game
yeah, like the Flyers penalty kill probably
bothered
earlier
me.
in the season would have killed that off, and then you get a win in that situation. I would say like for them to continue the success, at least for me, in terms of the special teams, like you got to have the PK stay in that top 10 range. I think that's pretty crucial. And then as long as the power play stays within like 22nd, 23rd to like 15th. I think that's their sweet spot. Like you don't want to be in the bottom 10 or bottom 5 on your power play. I think that could really hurt you. So if they can kind of keep it going, maybe get a little better as they go into the
Get to
new year
18,
here.
20%, somewhere in that
Yeah,
range.
I think that would be ideal. And I think too, like we're starting to see them settle on their units a bit more. Like I feel like the last 3, 4 weeks they're kind of jumbling things around, but now we're kind of seeing two pretty set units that they're kind of going to back and forth. They're not really changing anything. So I think it's good to kind of let the chemistry brew a little bit. And I just want to go into a couple more stats since we were going through stats here. Like I think a lot of what's happened this season is just the defensive play of the team. Like we can't overlook some of these defensive metrics. Like their goals allowed right now, 2.75 a game, ninth in the league. Shots on goal allowed, 25.7. That's in fifth best in the league. So just those metrics in general, right? Like they're really pressuring teams when they're in the defensive end, not really giving them much to shoot at in terms of quality chances, keeping teams out to the perimeter, kind of using Tocchet system to their advantage where, they're keeping teams to one side. And then when something does open up, the goaltender kind of has a clear view at the shot and is able to make the save. So yeah, I just think the defensive play under Tocchet's been really, really good. And what we talked about too, Yariv, that this team kind of needed to do to take that next step and kind of secure themselves, at least in the playoff race for now, is we need to see more goal output. And right now they're up to 2.94 goals per game, 19th in the league. So I think if they can stay around that, 2.9, even get up to 3 range, stay around like 20th, maybe to 18th in the league in goals for, and then keep those defensive metrics as they are top 10, like they're going to be well on their way, in my opinion, to kind of securing a playoff spot. Like these are all really, really important metrics. And if you look at, playoff teams, they're typically teams that, are going to have their goals for in the top 20 of the league, are going to have, their defensive metrics in the top 15 in the league. And the Flyers are checking all those boxes, right? So if they can keep that up and kind of stay where they're at right now on the special teams spectrum, like I think they're really setting themselves up for a strong second half.
Yeah, and if you guys remember, the Flyers offensively for, total goals in the season, they were like I think dead last or in the bottom 3 for majority
Yeah,
of the
they've
season.
really upped it
Yeah,
up the last couple weeks here.
they're
So
now at 20th. So while 20th is not like amazing, they're obviously moving. Their offense has improved
from last to
dramatically.
then, from
Yeah.
last to 20th is a pretty big jump. So
Yeah, so obviously they have a while to go to reach the very top there, especially with Colorado's absolute dominance. Flyers are at 106, Colorado's at 142 goals for.
well,
So,
that's
it's
not
a
surprising.
substantial difference there. But realistic, that they could end up at the very least in the top 15, which is kind of where this team is, right? Like while they are a very good team from like the standings standpoint, they're like slightly above average realistically right now. They're still not a Stanley Cup, contender or surefire winner, but they should be taken seriously. They're going to be an annoying team till the very end, and there's a very good chance they do make the playoffs as of right now. So that's, it's a really good sign. Hopefully health stays that way. And so speaking of health, we have a couple of health concerns, but before we talk about the health concerns portion, I do want to talk about Denver Barkey. So Denver Barkey got the surprising call up, and really just surprising because of his age and the order that typically happens with other young guys in the system. But when you look at it, he was playing top line right wing with the Phantoms along with Alex Bump. So the assumption would have been that it would have been Alex Bump who got that call up. Probably still would have been, but Alex Bump is actually week to week and was injured the game that the Flyers decided to make a call up. So Barkey was, I guess, the default second choice for them. Maybe he was the top choice, but I truly believe it probably would have been Bump just because of the age, the amount of
Yeah.
experience, the size. But that doesn't seem to matter. I have never looked at Barkey as a third round pick caliber prospect. I've always looked at him as a late first round pick guy who was looked over because of his size. So I see him as another first round pick the same way I do Alex Bump. For all those people who focus too much on draft position, you really have to look at the caliber of prospect more than where they were drafted. And the reality is Denver Barkey's resume is that of a late first round pick type of player. And I got to say, obviously, his first game, he was exceptionally good in a debut game,
Two
effective
assists, yeah.
all over the ice, 2 assists. I did see some analytics shared around, which I believe the post was being facetious. Like, I don't think they were trying to make a real statement, but I sent it to you guys. I'm like, this is what makes me believe that hockey analytics are tremendously abused, where it was just showing like McDavid's night versus Barkey's night, and they were like identical analytically. And they're
I'm
like,
like,
oh,
that's not accurate. Let's be real here.
this is why where analytics kind of fall short. They do not tell the entire story. Though, having said that, looks right at home. Looks like he probably is, if not right now, completely NHL ready. Like he should absolutely be considered penciled into the lineup next year. Which we're gonna have a lot of ongoing conversations about how they need to build the team for next season. We don't need to do that right now. But I got to say, I was really happy with Barkey. I'm a huge fan of him. For those of you guys who've been listening, I talked about all off season. I you did too, Vasili. Like, this guy's going to be really hard to send down. I was like, I wouldn't be shocked if he makes it beyond the initial cut. Like, I don't think they
Yeah.
had any thoughts to put him in the NHL, but he's the type of guy to just be like, well, I'm too good, too aggressive, too refined in my game, and outside of my height and the fact like I look like a 14-year-old boy, do I not belong in the NHL? And I think if he was on a worse team in the league, there's a good chance he probably would be in the NHL already.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think with Barkey, what's really interesting for me is just how, even though he's such a small player, like his game is so suited to the NHL and kind of what you need to do to be successful. Like he doesn't use size as a crutch for him. He just continues to play his game, even from junior to the AHL to the NHL,
I
right?
saw
Like,
him beat out 3 guys with the puck who were bigger
yeah,
than him.
yeah, it's just the tenacity, getting in on the forecheck. Oh, like for me, what it is, and I think why he can get in on those plays and kind of be effective is he just never stops moving his feet. Like if you watch him on the ice, he's never standing still. He's always moving his feet. He's always going into open ice, open areas. Also, when he does have the puck on his stick, if he's not gonna shoot, he's really quick to move it. He's not kind of delaying or waiting too long to telegraph. I think that's kind of something that the team has been missing a little bit, at least with certain lines, certain players, where it's kind of easy to see where they're going with the play and things like that. Like I just look at Barkey and what he's done so far, and it's really encouraging. Obviously, you have that kind of initial bump as a young player getting called up, where it's kind of a rush, and you really have a first strong few games. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of how he continues it into the new year, if we like see a drop off or not, because that's always like a potential thing with a young player. You kind of have that initial call up bump that
100%.
drops off a little bit. So we'll kind of see and monitor. But I imagine just with the way that he's so tenacious on the boards in tight situations, like can win puck battles and things like that. Like I don't feel like that's going to be an issue for him. Like I just think the way he wins puck battles on the boards, like he's so small and come away with those battles. And I think that's what you need as a small player to stick in the NHL, right? Like you look at a guy like Konechny, he's small out there too, but what sets Konechny apart, due to the size is his tenacity, the fact that he can play on the boards with the bigger players, and in certain situations, even come out of those battles with bigger players with the puck, like you said, Barkey did, in the 3-on-1. So I think very similar to Konechny in the play style, and I'm interested just to see kind of how he rebounds now after the little injury that he kind of sustained. I think the only thing we ought to be cognizant of with Barkey is, he's around like what 160, something like that. Like he's still, in terms of the weight, pretty small. So we just got to see how his body will hold up in the rigors of kind of playing in the NHL. I think that would become kind of my only thing going forward. I'm sure the Flyers have pointed this out to him too, right? To be able to sustain yourself in the NHL for a full 82 game season at that stature, he's going to need to really put some weight on in the coming years. So that'll be probably the one thing, right?
Yeah, he's got a little bit of that Mike Richards freak thing in him where like he doesn't look like
Overmatched, yeah.
but he doesn't look like a guy who's gonna be that physical, and he doesn't look like a guy who's gonna win all those battles, but he just manages to do it anyway. And I freaking love that element about him. So we'll see. He did just get injured. So we'll see what's gonna happen with that injury. The nice part is they have some days off here, so
Till Sunday, so a good amount of time actually.
yeah, a lot amount of time for a hockey standpoint to kind of take that window and at least properly assess him and see what that injury is. But what do you think about the combination with Coots and Tippett? Because they have kind of had trouble finding that other winger. They obviously use Grundstrom, who had some success, but offensively, even though he's had success, he's not like a playmaker. He's not a goal scorer. He's really just like a typical grinder with good skating. I think Denver Barkey is fit in really well in that spot, especially coming in and having
them.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think I think he complements them perfectly. Like, and the reason why, is just his style of play. Like, I think Couturier, as we know, is not the fleetest of foot any longer.
Yeah.
He's probably going to continue to get slower, to be honest, as his career elapses here. Tippett is a guy that is really focused in terms of offense off the rush. Like, we're seeing his passing game get a lot better, but he's not going to be that guy that, even though he has the size, he's not going to be that guy that can go in the corner and kind of dig pucks out for you, kind of set plays up off the wall. Couturier can, get into those board battles, win those puck battles, and, do that. But I think they really were lacking another guy on that line that could be tenacious, get in on the forecheck quickly, use their speed and tenacity on the forecheck to not only win puck battles, but when they do win it, they have the skill to actually make plays with the puck. Whereas I think Grundstrom, even though he kind of could do some of that board work, he's more of your sniper type. He's not going to really be setting guys up with the playmaking, whereas Barkey kind of has that vision, as we see with the 2 assists in that Rangers game. So I think he really complements them well. And I think it honestly allows for them to balance the 3 lines really, really well, because I love
Forrester there, especially.
I love the combination too with Michkov and Cates and Brink. I know some fans for some reason aren't fans of it, or don't like it, but I think Cates and Brink really complement Michkov, because they can kind of do that dirty work below the goal line, and Michkov can kind of be opened up to kind of do more of the skill heavy work on that line, more of the playmaking, can kind of be the guy that's opened up in front of the slot, kind of waiting for them to come out with the puck. So I think it kind of sets up their second and third lines really well in terms of the chemistry and kind of how both lines attack the net and attack offensively. So I like it. I'm hoping for Barkey, it's just not anything serious, and kind of we see him return, they can kind of keep things rolling, because I think right now these top 3 lines, aside from that stretch where Forrester came back from his injury, this is probably the best they've looked offensively all season. So
yeah, and this also goes into everything we'll be talking about this upcoming off season. And you look at guys like Barkey, who legitimately has top 6 upside, Bump, who at the very least has top 9 upside. You look at these guys just sitting in the minors, and that's not including Luchenko, Martone, Nesbitt.
There's going to be decisions to be made here.
Van
right?
Saggy, Murtag, and obviously the other guys are further away. There's going to have to be a consolidation of talent, in a package probably of some sort. Like, I don't want to throw Bobby Brink under the bus consistently, but you got to start looking at positions where you're like, well, we need room for some of these guys.
Well, look at how many wingers we have, right? To your point, and, like, we're gonna need to draw from a place of strength to maybe address some other needs, right? So
yeah, and a guy like Cates, like, he might end up getting shifted over the wing over time. And part of me has even thought about, like, is it worth it to just like re-sign Dvorak and trade a winger because you have a more, like trade a Bobby Brink because you're like, well, I can get something for Brink and I can re-sign Dvorak. And even if Dvorak is not what he is this year moving forward and he's more of a bottom six guy on the team, I know he can play wing. I know he can play center. I know he's really good at faceoffs. I know he's really good at defense. He is older
Go
and
to
all
the
that.
penalty kill. Yeah.
Right. It's like, and it doesn't mean Bobby Brink needs to leave the team. That's not my point here. I would understand if the Flyers opt to just keep him as well. But the thought is like, there's just a numbers game at a certain point, and we're trying to find some elite talent. Are there guys that we can package away, and then you re-sign a guy like Dvorak because you don't have to go search for somebody in UFA, and you have a guy who already works. So these are all the stuff that's going to come up. Also, I do want to just make a note. We don't need to talk about it too much, but obviously Sanheim, we do have that confirmed that he was taken out for concussion protocol. It looked to me like he's okay. Again, we have the days here coming up to make sure that he's okay. I think that was more of just standard, like, hey, it's right before the holiday. Just we're winning. Just keep him out. Like let's just be safe. That's what it looked like to me. I'm not sure. We're probably not going to hear anything about it, in my opinion, till maybe the day before the
Yeah.
next game. So we'll kind of play that by ear a little bit.
I think he should be okay. I mean, I didn't see anything necessarily that like would have caused him to get pulled. But yeah, Tocchet mentioned in his presser that he was pulled by the concussion spotters, but he said I think he's fine though. So I feel like if it was anything potentially serious, he wouldn't have got that comment from
He
the
he
coach at
didn't
all.
look rattled. He
Yeah.
looked angry. But he didn't. And again,
It might have
sometimes
been because he was getting pulled and he's like, why are they pulling me? And nothing's wrong with me,
could be
right?
the whole situation. Again, concussions are tricky. The effects of it can come on potentially later as well.
Better
Not
to be
necessarily
precautious. You're up in that situation against a team
right,
that you typically would beat. So I
right.
I don't see like what's the negative of doing that,
And
right?
and again, this is the Risto effect, right? Like because you have Ristolainen back,
Shift him up into that
ex-
Sandheim role for a little bit.
exactly.
Yeah.
Which again, he played a larger role in this team over the past 3 years than he is right now. So you just have Andre and Drysdale. Oh my God, Drysdale's defensive game has. I don't think people are really like I do this segues perfectly in our next topic. I really don't think it has hit the NHL how good Jamie Drysdale is. Everybody keeps looking at Cutter Gautier's scoring numbers, but when you really
Wow.
look at the way Jamie Drysdale is playing defensively, and I believe the offensive game will improve as well. Again, he's a defenseman; he's going to take longer than a forward, especially a winger. It just the way I see him just boxing players out, beating out bigger players for the puck. Just he is
He's
becoming
improved. He's improved.
dramatically to the point where
And
I wouldn't be shocked if he's better than York next season, like at every aspect of
And,
the game.
yeah,
Like that wouldn't shock me.
and if some offense starts to kick in here, right? Because I think it's important that the defense is coming first. He has those instincts. Eventually, we're going to see some of that offense kind of hopefully show through and shine. But for me, like I think you got to give a lot of credit to Bradshaw and John Tortorella just for Drysdale's development. Like they worked with him a ton defensively
It
last
worked.
season.
Yeah,
And yeah, we're seeing the fruits of that, and we're also seeing the fruits of him just having a monster summer in the gym. You combine those two together, and we're kind of seeing at
that's a
least
perfect segue.
a breakout season for him in terms of the defensive play. And just before we move on, like I
Go
just
ahead,
want to
yeah,
say
please.
in general, in terms of the defense, like probably one of the deepest defense cores right now in the NHL, like just with York Sanheim, Drysdale Andre and
Everybody's good.
Sealer and Ristolainen. And yeah, like you don't have a pair that you're, oh no, this pair is going out
Carrying.
there. We
Yeah,
kind of have to shelter them, put them out there against fourth lines, third lines only. Like you could be comfortable having Ristolainen and Sealer out there against a second line or something, and they could shut them down. Like you wouldn't be opposed to that. I just think it allows for them to, first of all, shift some of the minutes off the first pair. So you're not constantly relying on Sanheim and York so often as the season goes along. But like, if you look at really good teams in the league, the depth on defense really matters. And I just think there's not too many top sixes in the league that you can look at in terms of the full depth and say, wow, that number six defenseman beats out like a Sealer or a Ristolainen on the third pair. Like it'd be pretty hard to do that. Like the Flyers don't have that upper echelon, you could say number one defenseman like a Quinn Hughes, but most teams, once you get past their fourth defenseman, it's a real stark drop off on the third pair. The Flyers have that issue earlier in the season with the injuries, but it's just not the case right now. Like they're able to kind of roll that third pair out there for a lot of minutes where most teams are kind of sheltering them, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's a perfect segue. You know, you mentioned conditioning and all that. We're going to get into that, but I do want to touch on, excuse me, Rick Tocchett's response to the media
I loved it.
about
I
all.
loved
Yeah,
it.
I did too, because I feel what he's doing or what he's saying, and I don't blame the media. I think they are responding to the conversations they're seeing online, so they're asking the questions that a lot of people on the internet
Want to
are.
hear answers to, yeah, yeah.
Yes. So like, but so I felt like it was kind of a response to the team. But again, like I really admire what he was saying, because he was like, you know, we keep you guys. He's like, this is the sixth question about Michkov already. He's like, I got Jamie Drysdale playing well. I got York playing well. I got all these things, and everybody just keeps hammering on this one point of
Yeah.
Michkov. And in one aspect, I totally empathize. Like you and I both have a lot emotionally invested in Michkov, right? The entire fan base does. We all want to see him become the superstar we know he can be. And when you don't see him playing that way, you know, you're like, you're kind of freaking out a little bit. I'm not freaking out personally, but because I believe I understand the problem. But at the same time, like you have to be realistic. Like, you know, you were looking at that back-to-back game last night. Like Michkov was struggling in that back-to-back game. The conditioning is obviously the main issue of all of this. And Tocchet still giving him a pretty long leash. Like he made several bad passes for turnovers last night
And
from
he's still
like,
getting trotted back out there, yeah.
yeah, exactly. He's not being benched for a whole game. And quite frankly, he's not playing that well. Now, I did see the point difference between last year at this point and this year. It's a 9 point difference. Okay. While
Not
yes,
crazy, yeah.
29 points to 20 points is would be very nice right now. And that would have put him on a 65 point pace, whatever he had last year. Okay, so he's on a 50 point pace right now in a sophomore slump. If you look at Demidov, who's the rookie leader in points right now, who's I think an exceptional prospect. I would absolutely love to have him in Philadelphia. He's still not having as good of a season as Michkov did, like last
Yeah.
year. So like he hit such a high, and then you combine that into what you're seeing. I saw somebody else like comment, "Oh, Trevor Zegers a much better player than Michkov." Okay, well, would you have said that last year when Zegers put up 37 points and Michkov put up 65? You know, like it's this whole like, you know, I like let me throw it in your face. It's like I let me get this comment in for a win. Let me
We got to step back and take a look at the bigger picture sometimes, right?
right,
Which is not happening. So
which I think was the point of what Tocchet was saying. Exactly that, Vasili. Like guys, like let's look at the big picture here. We're playing well. The team is playing well. Michkov he is getting better defensively, by the way. He had a
yeah,
turnover last night and rushed back, made the back check, and stripped the puck that completely negated his turnover.
really good
So
play.
right. And he was not doing that under John Tortorella. He's doing that this year. So we have to understand this is gonna be a process. Yes.
He's improving, right?
Yes. And let me say one more thing, and then I want to let you talk. The other thing, and I was thinking about this while we were talking about Barkey. Barkey's conditioning is obviously very good. Okay. That is what is allowing him to do. So imagine that Barkey didn't have the conditioning that he had right now. Would he be in the NHL?
No.
Michkov doesn't even have the conditioning of the, let's be honest here, the average player on this team, and he still has 20 points. So the talent is clearly immense and there. He is the least conditioned player on this roster. That is the reality of what we're looking at. He's the only guy who can't do 45 plus second shifts on a regular basis. That is a sign that this
Yeah.
is all conditioning based. And on the back to back night, he struggled immensely, where he looked really good against Vancouver. So
Yeah, I
people
want to
need
say
to
that.
realize that. Please go ahead. I'm
I
sorry.
want to say that as well. Like he looked really good against Vancouver, had a really strong game. Obviously gets the empty netter, gets rewarded, but you could argue with the way that that line played, like they probably were due for a goal at some point, like just based on their forechecking ability. And I think, we'll kind of see them maybe hopefully start to break up more offensively in the new year and after the break. But yeah, like I think for Michkov, like what it is just frustration from fans because obviously last season he has a monster rookie season. They want to see him used in certain ways because he's so important to the team's future, which is totally understandable. But the conditioning is just something that you can't ignore, right? Like it's pretty clear that he gets winded after like a 40, 50-second shift, which is a pretty short shift. to be honest. So like if you're going to only be able to stay on for 50, 40, 50 seconds every time, like it might be difficult for you to stay out there on in extended periods in the offensive zone and, create opportunities like you did last season. So I think the conditioning is a real factor. I think people are overlooking, and it's very hard to up that conditioning in the midst of an NHL season. So you got to just hope during that Olympic break time, maybe he can kind of take some time to kind of help rejuvenate his conditioning in a sense and maybe get stronger in that aspect. But I think it's going to be tough for him this season. And when you look at it, like if he ends up having like a 50, 55 point season based on everything that happened this summer and the conditioning, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. It's something he's going to learn from. But I think he's having an impact positively on that Cates line for me. Like I like that line. I think it's allowing him to not have to do so much work below the goal line, which is gonna tire you out even more in those board battles because you have Cates and Brink doing it. It's kind of opening him up for more offense. So I think it's a smart move by Tocchet, honestly, to put him with a Cates and a Brink because they're going to be the motors on that line. He can kind of focus on being the offensive spark, right? So I like it. And I just want to kind of list out like Tocchet's uh kind of quotes, right? So he was asked obviously about these 6 Michkov questions, and I think for him and the way he responded, it's kind of smart because you're almost trying to take the focus off Michkov in a sense, like, hey guys, ask me about this player, ask me about that player. Why don't you ask me about how, as a team, we were thought to be probably one of the last teams in our division, but are now 6 in points percentage? Like you don't see any of those questions coming off. So I think for Tocchet, it's pretty smart because you're trying to just take the focus off Michkov. Like I would imagine the kid doesn't want to be asked about in the media every single day about his conditioning. Like I would imagine it's hard for him to kind of deal with that, right? And that spotlight. So I think it's a smart move by Tocchet trying to take the pressure off him in a sense with the media. Like, hey, don't ask me about Michkov every 5 seconds. Let's give the kid a bit of a break, right? Like, and we'll see kind of how he responds in the second half and everything. But I think, yeah, like if he ends up having just a 50, 55 point season, it'll be disappointing. But I think it's something he'll learn from. But yeah, Tocchet mentioned, right? Like we're 17-10. We've got a good record. I've answered 6 Michkov questions. I mean, enough's enough, guys. We've got Vladar having a great year. Drysdale playing really good 5-on-5 for us. Yorkie's doing a really good job. We've got a lot of other players playing good on the team. I mean, this is the 5th question. I appreciate it, but you're trying to make something that's not there. And I think to Tocchet's point in the frustration, it's more about like it seems like the media is trying to like stir up some issue between Tocchet and Michkov almost in a sense by asking.
I think they're
all these
responding
questions.
to the stuff online.
They are, but you're as a media member, why are you taking into account what these people online are saying in terms of, oh well, I think Tocchet's not treating Michkov right. He doesn't like Michkov. Like it's almost like they're trying to feed fuel into the fire, and it's just clickbait bullshit for me.
Well,
I think as a media member, like you should not. You can ask these Michkov questions; it's totally fine. But I just think they're overdoing it to a point where they're trying to almost create like this unnecessary rift between the coach and the player, catching him off guard, maybe saying something in some sort of press conference, and then national media runs with it wild. So to me, I just think it's a lot of bullshit. But
normally I'm pretty harsh on the media, but I think they are getting harassed about it.
yeah,
So they feel like, well, let me get Tocchet's quote so we can quell this issue. I actually don't think so, because if you look at like Kevin Kurz and you look at all the popular media people like Charlie O'Connor, if you actually listen to what they're saying, they're defending Michkov.
yeah,
They're
exactly.
defending the roster decisions. They don't see anything crazy. So I don't think they are trying to ignite it. I think it's just the online discourse is so crazy, and they are a little bit more slaves to it because of their job, where you and I, and it's probably more me, like when I hear shit online, I just go, no, this is dumb. And I just like straight up call it for what it is, where they have to be a little more nuanced because they have bosses and they need certain viewers and all that. We don't really need to do that. We just do whatever we want to do. That's what happens when you're the CEO of your group. Like I can do whatever the freak I want. You can tell me not to curse. You can tell me not to vape. I don't care because it's my brand. I can do whatever I want. I think they're a little more subject to, maybe there's a little bit of what you're saying though that comes in where like, well, this is the story.
It might not be them trying to do it like like they might not be trying to phrase those questions to Tocchet to cause a rift, but I could see from Tocchet's perspective every single day he's getting asked these questions. He's not on social media. He's probably like, what are these media guys coming in here every single day asking me 8 questions about Michkov?
He's not looking at Twitter.
No, but he's thinking like these guys are trying to cause a rift between me and this kid because I'm not playing him because there's a clear conditioning issue. It's pretty evident why he's not getting 20 minutes a night. It's because he can't handle those minutes. He would be gassed. He'd be making a ton of mistakes. It's just not worth it for his development.
He's not even in the condition that he was last season.
No, exactly.
People are not understanding that.
Worse. It's worse.
He was able to play 18, 19 minutes a night sometimes last year. Clearly something went wrong this offseason with his conditioning and preparation for the season, and it's dramatically hurt his season. But that does not mean he can't rebound from it, which I believe he will.
Alternatively, too, if it was John Tortorella as the coach right now, you'd be losing nothing. He would not even be playing. He'd be getting benched probably, to be honest. So like imagine what the discourse would be online if it was Torts, right? So I just think from Tocchet's perspective, like the frustration that he's kind of brought to the forefront for me, like it's pretty warranted because he's not keeping track of the social media stuff. So he's just looking at it as like reporters probably trying to stir something up. And I totally see where he's coming from. So,
and I do want to go back to what you were saying about the Kate Brink line. You know what? I noticed a detail after Michkov's turnover where he'd made that nice recovery where he was talking, where Bobby Brink was talking to him on the bench afterwards. One, you got to love the way, Cates is defending him and Brink is defending him. They're working directly with him. They're not treating him
They're all communicating, yeah.
Yeah, and I saw Bobby Brink explaining something to him and talking about like, oh, you do this, we're going to do this, blah, blah, blah. And I saw Tocchet talk to Brink and be like, did you tell him? Did you talk to him? And he's like, yeah, I got it. Like there is a whole system here. Like they're working with him. And I think he's so talented and he was so good the first year that I think people are already like jumping to like, he's the face of the franchise. And I saw somebody be like, oh, the team sold him as the savior. No, they were directly doing the opposite. They kept saying he's
a young
not
player.
The
he's going to take time to bring along.
Literally,
development will take some time. Briere literally said all of this.
And he said he's not the savior. He's not the savior. And people are like, but they said he's the savior. It's like, no, they said the exact opposite because he exceeded expectations his rookie year for them. Right?
Yeah.
So, like, they're ready for some struggles. Like, people are talking about, oh, they're going to trade him. It's all nonsense.
Development's not linear, to be honest.
It's a complete load of crap.
Yeah, like, no, I always say development's not linear, at least for Michkov, to be honest, with his competitiveness and just kind of how we know that he wants to, like, we know Matvei Michkov wants to be a difference maker. We can see it eating away at him. Like when he misses a scoring chance, the way the points have been going for him this season, like, you could tell he wants to be contributing more. He wants to be a guy who's, a prevalent offensive force on this team. I honestly think though, going ahead in his career, this might have been the best thing that could have happened for him. This kind of whole conditioning thing, you're kind of going through these struggles this year. It's just all learning experience. I feel like this happening to him, he's never going to make these same mistakes again going forward, or at least you would hope not.
Yeah,
right? Like, and I think it's going to be something that he learns from and takes into this summer and really just hits the ground running in terms of his off-season training and comes back next season even better. Like, you got to think about it. Every winning team, before they win, they usually lose. Like, look at Florida, look at, past winners, but look at even every like successful player. It's not always just a rocket straight to the top. Like there's gonna have to be struggles in there so you can learn from your mistakes to build on your skill set to get better, right? So it's all a natural progression.
100%. What was the whole Tampa Bay thing, right? They lose in the first round against Columbus. They get swept by John Tortorella and the Blue Jackets, and then come back the following year and just become a dynasty. It's like there is a lot to this. There's a lot from learning from failure, and the fact that I see hints of Michkov getting better defensively within this, it's making me more comfortable. And the fact that I know he's not conditioned enough, I was like, I expect him to be an animal this offseason. And he's going to have most likely a shorter offseason than he did last year. So he's got to be really prepared not just because of the Olympics and all that, but there's a good chance they make the playoffs. And what if they make it past the first round somehow, right?
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden it's even shorter, but he's got to be ready.
Today, if you look at the playoff picture today, the Flyers would be facing the Islanders, and that's a team that in a 7-game series, I
They
mean,
could
it could be
beat.
it could be a coin flip either way. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Um, yeah, okay, so let's move on. I just want to remind everybody, please like and subscribe, hit the notification bell for notifications of when we release these episodes. And for the audio version, go to Spotify and iTunes, give us a rating and a follow if you can. If you made it this far, please do those things now. We humbly appreciate it. So I don't want to sit on this too long, but I do want to talk about the Frank Cervalli comments again. He was kind of when they were on their, Connor Bedard and Celebrini were in doing fantastic, and Celebrini is still absolutely crushing it. He's a phenomenal
Yeah,
prospect.
Bedard probably
Obviously,
would be too if he never got
if
hurt.
he was, yeah. But I just want to point out, he's like, oh, wouldn't you have rather done what San Jose and Chicago were doing? Chicago, not just losing the Flyers last night, they are the worst team in the National Hockey League once again with a .444 win percentage. The Sharks are the 25th, tied for the 27th worst winning percentage at exactly 500, 17 and 3. They're also a pretty shitty team. For all those people who are saying how much truth there was to what Cervalli was saying, because I saw a lot of that from everybody.
All the doomers.
How true is it now? I just want to point that out, and how I knew it was nonsense at the time when he said it. And I like Frank Cervalli, but I don't use him as a hockey scout. Like, I use him as a news guy. So, people keep listening to people that tell them a narrative that they want to hear instead of looking at the objective truth. And it does not mean the Flyers are a championship squad today. But again, look at what they're doing with the names of players they have coming up behind them. And I saw somebody comment, we're going to talk about Martone and Luchenko, and I saw a scout, and he was talking about McKenna and Martone. I didn't see him mention Luchenko. Do you think I care about some internet scout talking about Jet Luchenko? Like, why are people still using this as a point of reference for whether your team is going to be good or not? They miss so much. They miss 80% of what's going on.
50-50 usually.
It's less than 50-50.
Yeah.
If you're 50% accurate, you're incredible. This is incredibly hard to predict, for one. So I just want to bring that up again, just as a reminder. And again, we'll probably hit a lull in the season. It doesn't mean the Flyers are just on their way up for the rest of the season, but it shows that what they're doing is working. And there isn't one way of rebuilding.
There's multiple ways to build a franchise up. It doesn't necessarily mean the way Chicago, San Jose are doing it is the wrong way, but it doesn't also necessarily mean that the Flyers are doing it the wrong way. You don't have to ascribe to one singular, method to kind of build your team. You can do it in a lot of different ways, a lot of different strategies. I think Briere is kind of doing it through the draft, like those teams, because you're seeing a lot of, players they drafted in high spots. Like Martone's going to make his debut probably this season or next season. Michkov obviously drafted in the top 10. It's not like they haven't added guys that have been in the first round or anything. So it's kind of
you don't even talk about Bonk.
Yeah, it's kind of hilarious to me. But like, I think the Flyers are building the draft, but also doing it in a way where you can add veterans and help them bring along and mentor your young players. Whereas kind of, you have your Chicago and San Jose just stripping it down to the bone. Either ways can work in certain respects. I just think for Cervalli, that was the hot button topic at the time with Celebrini and Bedard playing so well. So of course he's going to bring that up and kind of compare it, because he knows what the Philadelphia media market is like and the fan base is like being from Philadelphia, and how crazy they would go over a comment like that. He's smart. He's played the game. He knows how to get the clicks. So that's what he's doing. I can't really fault him for that. I think just like, he's always going to be a guy that's going to try to bring up those hot button topics. So for me, it's just like, hey, the national media is going to bring up what they bring up. But when you actually look in and watch every game, you can see that this Flyers team is having a lot of success. I can guarantee you that Frank Cervalli's not watching every Flyers game.
No,
so
he's not. He's too busy. In fairness, he's too busy.
He doesn't have a good grasp probably on what this team is on a game-to-game basis. But to your point, he's probably doing a lot. So
yeah, no, he's covering every team in the league and trades. So I respect the guy. It's not that
definitely me too.
It's not that I think he's like a bad dude or anything like that. I get frustrated with those statements because I say this all the time, but like it's in the nuance. It's in the nuance. It's not in the surface level analysis. The surface level analysis is bullshit. Majority, it's like, oh, it's like that comment I saw. Oh, you won 2 games more than you lost. Congratulations. That's what somebody commented to me. I go,
But how about all those losses and how close they were and like how you're learning from them and they're all 1 goal games and
the
yeah.
team is sixth overall in the league in winning percentage. What do you think that comment does? What do you think that says about the other teams below them? What does it say about everybody else? How good are they then?
I don't know.
They're
It's a good
also really
question.
bad then. Then everybody's bad. Then there's 3 good teams in the league. Everybody else sucks.
According to Twitter, yeah.
That's like the logic I see when people say that to me. I'm like, okay. I was like, whatever. Do whatever you want. Again, you're allowed to think whatever you want. It's just I'm not gonna validate it because you have a thought. I don't operate that way. All right, let's do current combinations. We'll take a look at the roster where it stands today. We can combine I have the Phantoms section lower, but let's just do them both together.
Yeah, yeah. That
It'll be
sounds good.
easier. And then we'll end with World Juniors stuff. All right. So here's the current lineup. Again, there are injuries as of right now. We do not know the extent of those injuries, but I'm going to go off the roster where it was as of last night. So Trevor Zegras with Dvorak, Konechny, that line's been absolutely rolling. No reason to break that up. Denver Barkey's been playing with Couturier and Tippett. Tippett, by the way, we didn't talk about his goal, but what an insane goal. That was
Highlight reel. Yeah.
that almost as pretty as his Spinorama one, but it was
Oh
definitely.
man, he made Willander just look like the guy just fell backwards. He looked terrible.
He
Like the
looked
toe
like
drag.
McDavid on that shift,
Well,
dude.
yeah, the toe drag he made to just make Willander fall backwards and just the speed in general, and then just to bring that puck back and then, um, you know, feather it right over Demko top shelf. It's not
I
like
didn't
that's
even when he
it's
scored
not.
the goal. I was like, "Where's the puck?"
Oh, he has it right, right.
I know it was,
Wrap around on the bar. Those are my
yeah, but
favorite.
got stuck up there too. It was just like, boop,
Right where the cookies are hidden, you know?
yeah,
But yeah, like it's not
right
like
in the
that's a
nook.
goalie. It's not like that's a goalie that isn't one of the best goalies potentially like on talent in the league and Thatcher Demko. So to be able to finish like that on him, that's you can't take that
It
lightly.
was an awesome goal. So Tippett, I think, has looked very strong of late, and I think that's why I really like the Denver Barkey because I feel like it opened up Tippett a little bit.
Yeah.
Because Barkey's a really good playmaker. So,
Barkey
eh,
could win those battles off the board, get the puck out to the
yeah,
slot quick, stuff like that. Like
he's
you
got
weren't
good
seeing
vision. Yeah.
that on that line before, just with Tippett having to do more of the board work. But yeah, like you have that Barkey, Couturier, Tippett line. Then your third line obviously is Michkov, Cates, and Bobby Brink, which I think they've had a good showing the last few games after being put together. I like I've mentioned like probably 5 times already. I like Brink and Cates with Michkov, despite the fact that everybody in the Flyers fan base doesn't seem to like it, but I don't really get why because it's not like they're not using that line prominently. So he's going to get his minutes.
Everybody wants to see him playing with Trevor Zegras. That's
Yeah, I just
I'm
don't
not
think
I'm
it's going
not
to
gonna
happen
lie.
this season at this
There
point.
there are a few times where I'm like, it would be cool if like every now and then, and I more blame this on Michkov than I do Tocchet because Michkov's just not looked good enough. That like for a shift, I'd love to see like Michkov
They
Zegras,
did
and
it the
they
other
did
they
it a
did it the
couple
other
of
night.
times,
Yeah.
yeah. But I'd love to see it like pulled out of a hat for like a late goal type of thing. But he's not using Michkov like that. I don't think Michkov's necessarily earned it majority of the nights to be used that way. And then the fourth line, as it is, Grunstrom, Obels, Gurbankin, the best fourth line we've seen so far from the Flyers this year, and the most skill out there.
Do you
You know,
question for you, Yariv, actually, do you think with this fourth line and how it's kind of come to prominence here, if they continue, let's say for the next, after the break, let's say they continue for the next 3 weeks and look how they have been. Solid every night, chipping in some goals, but consistently giving you a good shift, and you're able to play them like 10, 12 minutes a night. Do they look to move a guy like a Hathaway because he's just not getting in the lineup, and maybe another team in the league might want his veteran presence, for example? Or
so
do they keep the depth? You know?
so I think it's a very interesting question. It's actually one I was thinking about as well. It's kind of tough because he makes 2.4 million, and you probably would have to eat his contract because of his lack of production into next season to move him out. And I think he's very well loved in the room. So part of me is kind of like, okay, I think there's an I don't think he's going to get traded this year. I do wonder, when I bring up a guy like Dvorak and I see Garnet Hathaway makes 2.4 million, I'm like, I'd rather have Dvorak part of this team and relegate him to a bottom six if I need to than
Use
hold
that
on to
money on a
Hathaway.
Dvorak, yeah.
And
Easy.
having said that, Delorier is going to be gone. He makes, 1.8 million, 600K, 650K more than Hathaway. I'm like, can Hathaway maybe play that role for us for 1 year where he's the rotated in guy? I also looked at his face-off numbers. This is a terrible point I'm going to bring it, but I'm bringing it up anyway. He's 5 wins to 1 loss on the face-off. I am not saying that he can make a good center, but part of me is going like, is there a part of his game where you can he's too old in his game, right? He's 30, I think he's 32, 33 years old.
34.
34 years old now, right? So he's older in his game, but I'm like, is there potentially a guy who can win? I mean, we don't have a great face-off record. Can he be a 45% face-off guy? I mean, he's at 90% right now or whatever.
Yeah,
It's like
maybe. It's
I was
possible.
like, is there an opportunity to maybe swing him into a center spot? Um, if that's the case, then I say you hold on to him. But otherwise, I think most likely the case is he's just going to finish out his time with the Flyers, and he's going to take over
Yeah.
the Delorier role because I
It's
can't see
possible.
D'Lo getting signed.
No, yeah, I think this might
Obviously,
be end of the road for Delory with the Flyers. Honestly, though, I see your point. Like if you're paying Dvorak what 5.4 million this season, so automatically you have 5.4 million that's going to free up technically when he goes to UFA. Let's say hypothetically, he wants to stay here 7.5 million. If you technically got rid of Delorier and you could somehow package a pick with Hathaway to get him moved and clear his cap, you could just use the savings from those two guys to give Dvorak that 7.5 million, and you're not really
if I think if
losing much,
Dvorak
right?
wants that much money, he's not going to sign here. I think
Probably won't,
if
but
he's willing to take 5 million for a 3-year deal or something, I think
I
they would consider
I
it. But
could I could see it. I feel
not
like
that he
though
doesn't, he can't get 7. To your
he
point,
probably will, just looking at the UFA, like the
right?
UFA
It's possible,
class, right?
yes.
But that's why I kind of mentioned it. But I think he realizes the fit right now. Like he's playing first line center. What other teams are going to give him that opportunity? Like he might be able to cash in on a contract, but like if you're thinking about potential to win and being a competitive team, playing on a team that looks poised to, be making the playoffs here for the next few seasons. If I'm Dvorak and the Flyers like, hey, we'll give you 6 million for like 3 years, I would do it if I'm the Flyers. And
It
if you're getting rid of Hathaway and Delorier, you're not really losing much. Like you're paying him that, you're kind of paying him the difference. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that number is a little high for me, but I'm not 100% against it, especially if I look at it like Noah Cates is like 40 some percent on the faceoff dot. I do look at a world where maybe it's, Cates and Dvorak playing on a line together as like a shutdown third line, and we do find a
Interesting.
top six
Yeah.
forward, right? I do see value in Dvorak, right? And we're gonna have an immense amount of cap space, and a lot of young guys, and they're not guaranteed to, outside of Martone, none of them are guaranteed to be in the NHL lineup. It's really Martone and Luchenko are the only two that are most likely going to be on the Flyers next year. Majority of the other guys are probably going to need more time, and that, bump
Yeah.
is obviously still question mark, Barkey. But we're gonna have a numbers game, so I don't know. But I really like Dvorak. It's kind of hard not to like him. But I do consider what you said last time. It's like he can go and get more money in free agency. It's his last big contract. He's gonna want probably a 5-year deal, is my guess. So I think
But
they're
what
gonna.
does he prioritize more though? Does he prioritize maybe being on a team that's up and coming that might have a chance to win, or does he
That's
prioritize
up to him.
money on a really, because it might be one of the weaker teams in the league giving him that type of contract, but they just due to the
I
effect that they
mean,
need him in that center position. So we'll kind of see
that's
what,
exact decision he did make this
yeah,
offseason,
right. So we'll kind of see
but he
what
got
he,
overpaid also.
yeah, yeah. But
Well,
like I said, we'll see what he decides to do. But I just
did
think, I
did he
think
get
the,
overpaid though? At the end of the day, is he not doing exactly
uh
what his contract is worth at this point?
I mean, yeah, but I just think he got overpaid based on his prior production. Like nobody expected him to produce this well offensively, I think. I think the defensive game was there, but the offensive output we've seen.
He's jumped
I
up 50% in production from
Yeah, right.
previous
So
year.
that's
Yeah.
what I mean. But it also is due to the fact that you're playing on the top line as well. So
Yeah, and I don't think the Flyers want him in that spot long term. I
third
think they
line
loved him.
center or second line center.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Like middle six is the most appropriate position for him, and I think third line is perfect for him when this team can be a Stanley Cup contender. But ideally, you want somebody, if it's not Zegras, you want hopefully like Luchenko or Nesbitt or somebody in free agent takes that spot from him because Sean Couturier is also going to regress more as he gets older, right? And he's signed up, so you kind of have that third line spot kind of already taken by Noah Cates and Sean Couturier. That's why I kind of look at Bobby Brink and I'm like, man, you were like the odd man out, even though I don't want to see him go. I'm kind of like, I don't know how.
Yeah, but the way I look at it though, like they're eventually gonna need to make a trade here. They just have too many wingers. Like I'm gonna give you an example. You already have potentially Marton Luchenko needing to make this team next season. And maybe even Barkey and Bump because Barkey's looking good and Bump just seems to have, the trust of the organization's management staff and they just seem to believe in him.
Plus,
So
he's
I think
also looking really good,
he's
at least in the
yeah, so like
minors.
they're gonna give him a shot. So like you have four guys you need to make room for potentially next season. Not maybe not all four will make it, but like I think for sure Luchenko and Martone are gonna make it, and probably one of Barkey or Bump. So like you need to fit three guys into this roster next season. I guess you could get rid of Abel's Grunstrom and there's two, and maybe Dvorak and that's three. But like I just I don't know, like that. What does that do to the makeup of your roster? Because those guys are wingers. Like you need a center, so like they're just gonna have to do something to restructure this in a way to add a centerman in some sort of aspect because they just have too many guys on the wing. Like they're gonna need to do something. Whether it's maybe, but you know what? It might not be necessarily trading some of the veteran guys to make room for the young guys. It could be trading some younger players too to add an elite center or something. So I don't know what
in
they're
a
gonna
in a
do.
package.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna have to wait and see what the trade market looks like in the offseason, but there's gonna be movement here. Like we've said it for the last two seasons, but it's just evident to me that there will be guys on the move. There's just too many players here, so
Yeah, and that's why I look at a guy like Gurbankin too, where I don't know if he'll be here for the
he
long
could be
haul
moved
too.
as well. Yeah,
Right,
it's
he could be
possible.
moved in a package because he has value. It's a replaceable role for the
He's playing
team,
in the NHL. Teams
right?
see that, so
Yeah. So, and he obviously has third line upside. I mean, that's without a doubt in the kid. So it's like I don't know what they're gonna end up doing. But it's gonna get interesting. The defense, obviously we stated earlier, York, Sanheim, Andre, Drysdale, Sealer, Ristolainen. I assume Sanheim's okay. We don't know. And Juleson being the extra. I could see them sticking with these pairings for a little bit here. But knowing that you could shift, Ristolainen, and Drysdale or whatever or
vice
Andre.
versa. Yeah,
Yeah, it's just right now there's no reason to make a change.
they're
But
all
it
playing well, right? So
but
why
it
do
but it
anything?
is kind of crazy how the second pairing is so undersized yet doing really well, and
Because
then the
they move
third
the
pairing is
puck.
like, like a physical force.
It's like opposites almost, right? Like I feel like
Yeah.
Ristolainen can move the puck pretty decently, so you still have some
Yeah. I think
good
it's why it
amount of
works.
like
Yeah.
puck moving ability, right? Because Sealer's not the greatest in terms of the puck handling and the outlet passes, but they're kind of relying on Ristolainen for that, which he's decent at. But for me, the undersized pair works for two reasons. They're really quick. Both really great skaters. They can kind of get out of situations. They can also catch up to plays if they're pinching and kind of need to get back into their own end, they can do so pretty well. Like Drysdale's a fantastic skater. Andre's really good as well. But I think it's just their ability to make a first pass quick. Like Andre might be on this team the best outlet passer already. He's always like not always tape to tape, but like so far this season when he's making outlet passes out of his own end, like 90% of the time he's hitting the tape on the guy and they're
Yeah.
going
And he
they're
does it
going
quick.
forward.
He
Yeah, he
doesn't
does it
hesitate.
quickly.
Yeah.
They move out of their Drysdale and Andre move out of their zone very quickly when they get the pucks on their sticks.
It,
And I would say, like, as soon as Andre's kind of been into the fold here as a mainstay, we've seen the offense for the Flyers get better, and it's not by surprise, right?
yeah,
They're
it's
getting
yeah.
they're getting the pucks quicker to the offense, thus they're able to break into the offensive zone quicker and create opportunities quicker, and that's why we're seeing a surge offensively the last couple of weeks when Andre's kind of entered. So I think it all coincides. Like if the defense can get the puck ups quickly to the forwards, they're going to be able to capitalize and do what they want to do on offense quicker. So if they're waiting in the neutral neutral zone hanging around, it gives the other teams the opportunity to cover them in the neutral zone as they try to move ahead, and it just makes the offense a lot more stagnated, right? So
Yeah, and I do wonder if that same mentality is going to work in the playoffs, assuming they make the playoffs.
yeah, we'll
Because
see.
the physicality ramps up, the speed. I mean, the overall everything
To
ramps up
your
in the
point,
playoffs.
maybe
So
that's where you see a change where they try that Andre Drysdale pair in the playoffs. They get hemmed in because of the physicality, and they're like, "Hey, now we have the luxury to move a Ristolainen up into that pair to handle and help out on in a physical way." So
yeah, hopefully they're all healthy.
fingers crossed. Yeah.
And then yeah, Dan Vladar and Sam Ersson, and
Shout out to Urson, man. Like
yeah,
everybody,
strong game.
strong game from him last night against the Blackhawks. Obviously, they don't have Bedard
That
or
goal was not his
Nazar.
fault. He was screened by three guys on his own team. He would
Nobody's saving that, man. If you can't see the puck, I
that
mean,
was a mistake on their part where there was no traffic in front of the net and they all felt like they had to block it rather than just let the goalie see it. Yeah.
let him
Eh.
see the puck. He probably makes that save. But like, yeah, credit to Urson. Like, I think it's clear cut that Vladar is the number one right now. Like, he just provides a calmness in the net, even when another team kind of has offensive zone pressure on the Flyers and kind of is hemming them in. Like, he's able to make that big save and shut things down or make that key and
Better
timely
all.
save.
I feel like he's
Right.
also better on lateral movements
Oh
than
yeah,
Ersson.
he's a lot quicker right now. That might be due to his size, but I would say for Vladar, everything and more you could have wanted just so far. Like right now, I believe in terms of goals saved above expected, I think he is 10th in the NHL. Yeah, so right now he's 10th in the league, goals saved above expected with 14.6 goals saved above expected. He's in the conversation in the top 10 with guys like Connor Hellebuyck, Igor Shesterkin, Ilya Sorokin, Scott Wedgwood, Jake Ottinger. So pretty good company, right? And I don't think you could have expected something like this from Vladar, obviously. But yeah, just to see him do what he's done, it's been great. But for Urson, I just wanted to mention, like, he had a couple struggles, right? Like with that Rangers game, against Buffalo. So to see him bounce back against Chicago, I think it's a really good sign for him, right? Because you could have had that poor play kind of continue into the break, but at least he ends things off on a strong note and kind of maybe can start with a fresh slate going into the second half.
Yeah,
So
I'm in a tough position with him because he's right at the age of a goalie breakout like next season. And I know a lot of people have already given up on him and I can understand why. But part of me goes like, well, what are the other options? Like you're still waiting on Zavragin and
Kolosov,
Bjarnason
Bjarnason, yeah.
and Kolosov, and we're going to talk about Kolosov and Bjarnason after this. And I kind of look at it, I'm like, part of me is kind of like, but what if he improves next year? Like, because he's right at that age. And it doesn't mean he's going to be like a starter, but what if all of a sudden he's a 900 plus save percentage on a regular basis and he's just a good backup?
Then you have a really good tandem on the go.
Right.
So
And he's hitting that age. So I do kind of wonder, like, a lot of people are like, oh, he's not worth anything. He's done. I was like, I think they'll explore. I don't think they're ready to make a final decision on him, see how he finishes the season. I can understand the organization might be a little disenfranchised by him a little bit just because of how good Vladar's been and Erson's been like okay.
yeah.
He's had bad games and good games. But part of me goes like, well, but he's not 27 yet. And we all know that 27 is that age. Hence Vladar is 27 years old and having his breakout year. So it's like, okay, so he's not going to be a 1A, but what if he breaks out next year and we gave up on him and we signed like, because like the option beyond him would be a 34-year-old plus goalie
Yeah, like a free agent backup who's,
willing to take a one or
we
two
know
year
what they
deal.
are. We know what they are, but they're good backups that could provide you like a solid, output of
Which
starts, which isn't
maybe
bad.
that's better in the short term. I don't know, but part of me goes, well, like I don't know, because like maybe like there's a chance that Eriksson might be on Team Sweden too. He might be just like number 3, but he's not that bad of a goalie. Like he's had spurts where he's been very good, and this just to remind everybody, people freaked out about Carter Hart, when Eriksson was playing really well when he first came on the scene, and they're like, get rid of Carter Hart because Eriksson's here now, and I heard that bullshit. And part of me is kind of like with goalies, it's a little bit of this patience game, and he's gonna be an RFA, so like part of me is like, well, you could also sign him for super cheap, where like even if it doesn't work out, like if you can give him a 1 year deal at like super cheap, if it doesn't work out, it's kind of relatively easy to fix. Like he doesn't
Yeah.
have a lot of negotiation power either. So I do wonder if like maybe they'll give him a little bit longer of a look even beyond this season. But I also would understand if they just go, well, we'll find somebody else and Ersson can go, somewhere else and try his luck and we're just gonna move on. So
I'm looking at the like UFA goalies coming up, to be honest. Like, I mean, there's not the greatest of
there usually
options.
isn't.
Well, like I'm looking right now, like here's your cream of the crop. You have Peter Mrazek, who's gonna be a UFA. He's gonna be turning 35. Like, I don't know if we would want to re-explore that as a tandem. You have Laurent Brossoit, like for Chicago, like he's not really gonna be any better for you than Urson. I mean, Frederick Anderson's interesting.
But he's
He's
injured
37.
all
He's
the
always
time.
injured. So is he going to be able to provide any stability for you in that backup position? No. You have Stuart Skinner, who's going to be a UFA. I mean, he hasn't provided any. If you're talking about inconsistent goaltenders, he would be the definition. One game he looks really good. The next game he looks like the worst goalie in the league.
And
So imagine Flyers fans' reactions to that. Honestly, the best option is like Cam Talbot, and he's going to be 40. He's still decent, but it's like if you're getting him on a 1 year deal and then expecting, one of your younger guys to come in next season, then sure. But it's just like, I don't know what options you have. Maybe the only other decent option would be like Alex Nedeljkovic is going to be a UFA. That's a guy that I would probably be interested in. He's been decent with San
yeah,
Jose.
Nedeljkovic I like. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind that, but like, is he going to be even that much of an upgrade over Urson? It might be kind of similar. So I don't know really how you're not really upgrading too much here,
Right.
based,
That's why
based
part of
on
me
those
is like, do
options.
you just bet that he's hitting 27 years old? And that's typically around where goalies start finding their game. And you already kind of suffered with him this whole time.
Or at
So,
least going to be the best of what he can be. So
right. Which, maybe it's just a good backup in the league. And that's what we need. We need a guy who can play 25 games a year and be good and be above 900. And I can understand why people don't like that idea though too. I mean, his numbers have been terrible, and if you look, and this is where analytics do justice, is that they go in this case beyond the surface level. Is that a lot of the goals he's given up, like they're not that savable. Some of them are, but his numbers probably would have been better if the team just didn't give up certain chances. But at the same time, he hasn't been that guy who
yeah.
makes that big save
At the same
when the
time, he has some
Flyers
big
need it.
gaffes. He has some big
Right.
gaffes. Like that goal the other night. I think it was against the Rangers.
Yeah, there's a Zibanejad goal in the
Yeah, where it's like
final.
the
Yeah.
the glove side goal, you're kind of just like, hey man, like you got to save that one, and Vladar would have probably saved that. So you see
No,
those, and
what
you're kind of
didn't it go through his 5 hole? You're talking about that? I'm
that
talking about.
one. Oh, you're talking about a different goal.
I'm talking about. Okay.
I'm talking about the tying goal that he let in, like from the it's like a floater from the blue line. And you're like, what is this?
I
It's
thought
not
the
a good.
tying goal was the Zibanejad goal off the wing on the power play. I'm pretty
We
sure
might
that was it
be
because Risto took that
mixing them
penalty.
up.
He
Yeah,
took that.
yeah, it was, but there was another goal that
Yeah.
he let in like last week. It might have been against Buffalo. I don't know. I might
Oh,
be
okay. Yeah,
conflating the
yeah, yeah.
two,
Oh,
but
yeah. Buffalo, he didn't play that well.
either
But
way, he hasn't looked great.
yeah, and I remember he let that goal in through the 5 hole against the Rangers off Zibanejad's. Like it was a
Yeah,
nice one timer, but it was a
you
savable
got to
along the
save it.
ice.
You got to save it.
And literally, we had the exact same opportunity yesterday with the same play, and Zegras took the one timer along the ice. Goalie made the save, and I was kind of like, man, if you just made that same save, Harrison, the other night, we would have got that win. Um, so having said that, a lot of people are like, "Oh, call up Kolosov to replace Erson." I just want to point out to people right now what's going on in the AHL because I know people aren't really paying attention to the AHL.
Yeah.
Kolosov is most likely going to be the backup goalie by the end of the year in the AHL. So I don't know how long he's going to be here with the Phantoms. As of right now, he's played 15 games. He has a 2.77 goals against and a flat 900 save percentage, 6-8-1 in that
Yeah.
span, with one shutout, which is pretty good. Bjarnason, who's had to step into the starter role when Kolosov got called up, has a 2.58 goals against and a .908 save percentage, and it's 7-3-4 So he has a better winning percentage, better goals against, and better save percentage. And he's 21 years old, 2021.
So we're
So,
kind of seeing where it's trending, right? But it'll be
but,
interesting to see kind of what
but,
happens though for Kolosov.
but I don't like that people are going, oh, Kolosov already is better than Erson. Like they get frustrated and go, just call up Kolosov, get rid of
It'd be
Erson.
more of the same probably.
Yeah,
So
again, it's like it's just that overreactive stuff. Like Kolosov
yeah,
is not ready for the NHL fully either. Now, these numbers don't indicate that Kolosov is like done or any of that, but he's getting outplayed by the better prospect right now,
just to
which is why
add
they drafted
to,
Bjarnason.
yeah, so like I mixed that up. Like that Urson save was in the Buffalo game, but yeah, I remember it. It was Buffalo takes the lead. It's like a traffic in front, like a shitty glove side shot you should have saved. But there's been so many of those this season where you're like, if
Yep,
you would just
I
made that
agree.
extra save, the Flyers probably get a win, right? So like I think that's where the frustration lies. And like if you look at goal save above expected, he's 30th worst in
Yep.
that. So like he's not having a good season by that metric. So I just think, like I said, you look at the UFAs, like, and what's out there, like, is there anything better? I don't know. So
I
my
think
my guess is they just stick with him for next season. That's my thoughts.
I think that might happen too. I think the high danger shots are where he ranks high, is that he has a lot of high danger shots against them, which is it kind of explains why he gives up, goals. But to that point, he also doesn't make big saves, majority of nights. He doesn't make that big save that we really need where Vladar does.
Yeah.
And he gives up gaffes, so, but I'm kind of like one more year, might be worth it. One more year, give it another look. We'll see, because we have Bjarnason behind him. That's where I'm kind of looking at it, where I'm like, yeah, but then Bjarnason has a full year in the AHL. If it doesn't work out with Erson, maybe Bjarnason by the end of next year will be the backup in the NHL anyway. And because Zavragin is still locked up, overseas in Russia, which I also want to point this out. So Zavragin has been splitting his time now in the VHL and KHL. His numbers in the VHL, for those who are not aware,
Off the
that's the
charts.
AHL in Russia. It's his goals against average in 5 games is
Yeah, it's crazy.
0.78. His save percentage is 0.970. He has 2 shutouts. He's 4-0-1.
It's like it's basically a brick wall in the net. He just
You're not scoring on him
doesn't
when you
let
play
anything in.
against him. Less than a goal a game. Like that
Crazy. Yeah.
is nuts. His numbers in the KHL are also pretty good. 2.48 goals against average and a .924 save percentage with 1 shutout. He's 5-6-0.
Yeah, I don't believe
Um,
Ska's been that great of a team
yeah.
this season either, so that's kind of a subject of that too.
He's also the youngest of the goalies, so he's been kind of relegated to play more games in the VHL. But
Well, that's not surprising, yeah.
they definitely have that function down there. All right, let's look at the Phantoms real quick, and then we'll end with the World Juniors. So right now Alex Bump is injured, and Massimo Rizzo is in this ECHL, which might have to change now because the ECHL is apparently about to go on strike. So I would not be surprised if Rizzo comes back up with the squad, especially with the injuries going on right now. So this was the lineup they rolled for their last game. So Richard is playing with Peterson and Maruti because obviously Barkey is not with them either now. Um, Garrett Wilson was moved up to play with Dorwart and Zayd Wisdom. Alexis Gendron is playing with Gaucher and Kaplan, which has been a pretty consistent line for them. And then Eklund and Robertson have been on the fourth line. Robertson playing fourth line center. I'm sure those lines will probably get mixed up, but they obviously need another forward. That's why I think Rizzo will probably get the call from the ECHL since they're going on strike. And Alex Bump is week to week, so we don't know exactly when he's going to be back. He obviously could miss at least another week. Igor Zamula is now playing top pairing. He had an
The odd
assist in his
man
first
out,
game.
essentially. Yeah.
Yep, he had an assist in the first game. And he's playing with Gannett. Adam Yinning is now playing with Kairu, and Murchison is playing with Oliver Bank. And Roman Schmidt was used as the seventh defenseman since they're short on forwards. Hunter McDonald was a healthy scratch. I believe Helge Grans is still injured. Artem Guriev is also
Wow.
scratched,
That's
and
telling for McDonald just in terms of him being a scratch and where he's kind of fallen from grace here because the org really have high expectations, but the fact that all these guys have jumped him, that's pretty telling to me.
it's very interesting, isn't it? I was thinking the same thing that, and again, they have to rotate in a few guys, so it's definitely tough. Like, I think Schmidt, who they just traded Samson
They
for,
probably want to see him in a couple games, I'd imagine. Yeah.
right? It's like they're probably trying to figure it out. They have too many defensemen down there. Like Gronz is going to be back. You're talking
I
about
feel like
nine defensemen.
Zamula, like they're gonna try to trade Zamula at the
I think
deadline.
so
Like
too.
I
I
know
think they
that
already did.
yeah, nobody wanted him obviously, and then they just put him on waivers to see if maybe somebody would pick him up, and still nobody did. So I think that's kind of telling to what the league's thoughts are on Igor Zamula right now. There probably aren't a lot of suitors for him. But what you have to hope is as you get closer to the trade deadline, a lot of condensed games, there's probably going to be injuries, and there'll probably be a desperate team maybe that you either try to call him back up and they just pick him up through waivers, or like you're like, hey, like give me a seventh or like future considerations and
Yeah,
take this guy
that
kind of
that
thing.
might be the case. If not, I think he walks in
Yeah,
the
you
off season.
they won't be resigning him. Like we're talking about how there's no defensive spots on the Phantoms right now. Like it's only gonna get even more crowded. And same with the Flyers. So there's just not gonna be room for Zamula, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think they'll look to change it up anyway. I think probably be good for Zamula to go elsewhere
Change
at
of
this point.
scenery type of thing for
Yeah,
him.
new
Yeah.
coaching staff, everything. Because the guy is like kind of an anomaly because he has skills, he's got size. He's gonna be like, I guarantee you, he'll be a good defenseman at the AHL level. Like, he's not playing number one defenseman down there by accident
Oh, he'll be
immediately.
good. He'll be good at
You
the
know,
AHL level. I agree.
yeah. And then Kolosov and Bjarnason. I don't know who's the starter at this point. I think it's kind of changing, to be honest with you. I think Kolosov is still the starter, but I would not be surprised if by the end of the year Bjarnason is the guy.
Yeah.
I think I have a lot of faith in this kid right now. And with him and Zavragin, I actually feel much better about our goalie situation. It makes me understand why the Flyers didn't like rush to draft goalie because I think they're pretty high on both of these guys and believe in both of them. Zavragin is obviously a no-brainer. He probably would be an all-star playing in the AHL the way he's playing in the KHL, and the VHL is way too easy for him, which is not as strong as the AHL. So that's like, but it's better than juniors, and it's way too easy for him. So I kind of figure he would be an all-star goalie probably here. So I do
Yeah.
wonder with that whole Ayerson thing I was talking about, do you kind of rely on Bjarnason being your third string next year, if assuming it doesn't work out with Kolosov, and then you can bring over Zavragin at a certain point, and you want him to play in the AHL for a little bit anyway? That's going to kind of be the order.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll be
Possible.
Vladar, Bjarnason, and then Zavragin, and then whoever wins out by the end for that number two spot will get the number two for a little bit, and then eventually Vladar will move on, and we'll have Zavragin and Bjarnason as a duo. I don't know. Probably way too early to tell at this point.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see it play out for sure.
Yep. Okay, let's talk World Juniors, and then we'll end it there. So, the World Juniors has not officially started as far as the games. They're playing like the exhibition games that,
Pre-tournament,
yeah,
yeah.
the pre-tournament games. I think it starts on the 26th, right after Christmas, if I
Yeah,
remember.
Boxing Day
Yep.
always.
Yeah. So, it starts on the 26th in a couple days. So let me list out the players that are involved from the Flyers organization. So Shane Van Sage is on Team USA from Michigan State. He was a second round pick for the Flyers last year. Porter Martone, last year's prized first round pick, 6 overall from Michigan State. He's playing with Canada. Jet Luchenko, first round pick from Brantford, now Brantford, not Guelph, of the OHL. He's playing for Canada as well. Martone right now has been playing top line with McKenna, though McKenna was relegated down for a game. I don't know if they're sticking with that. But Martone had 2 goals, 2 assists last night,
Looked
four-point
good.
night.
I
Yep.
mean, it's Denmark, so take it with a grain of
They
salt. But
dominated. What was it, 13-3 or something, I think was the score.
yeah,
Um,
they had I think 12-2 or 13-3, something like that.
yeah, McKenna had 2 goals, 3 assists in that game.
Not
Uh,
surprising
Jet
either.
Jet Luchenko did score a goal in that game that was assisted by Martone, batted it out of the air. It's pretty cool. So both of them got on the scoreboard in that one. Uh, Jack Berglund, who had a very good game against Canada, scoring 2 goals, scored a beauty shorthander, and then an ice the game, essentially stripping McKenna of the puck. It's so funny how
It was
much
a good
hate
play.
Jack Berglund gets from like the fan base and all that, and then you just see him on the stage with other top prospects, and he's like dominant. I think people are so
Well,
obsessed with the bad skating thing that they,
I
you know,
feel like now that he has skates that fit him, we're seeing him do a lot better. But also I would have to take into account like he's played at this point, like he's been playing in the SHL for a bit now. Like I imagine playing with men in pro hockey, like we always say, when you go to play against your own peers, it's gonna do you a lot of good, right? And we're kind of seeing that, especially the defensive aspects, because a lot of these younger players at the World Juniors are not going to be defensive aces or anything like that. That's his specialty, so he can kind of take advantage, use his IQ, and then kind of make these plays against these highly skilled offensive players and kind of turn the defense into offense. So that's what I expect to see from Berglund probably out of the World Juniors here.
yeah, and he missed it last year because of injury,
Yeah, so
unfortunately.
it'll be interesting to see kind of how he can play for Sweden, but he's probably going to be like a top center for them, I
Yeah,
imagine,
I would
maybe top
imagine.
line.
And I brought this up I think last show, but does have 5 points in 22 games in the SHL now. He had like no points for the first 17 games. So as of
Starting to get
late,
accustomed.
he's a
Yeah.
point per game player over the past like 5, 6 games or something like that.
So maybe something
So
clicked for him offensively in that
right.
league where it takes a little time to get adjusted, and then we're kind of seeing it come to fruition. But it's really
I
good
imagine
for,
moved up the lineup probably as
yeah,
well.
it's really good for Berglund. So yeah, like for the World Juniors, in terms of like representatives from the Flyers, obviously you have Martone and Luchenko on Canada. You're gonna have Shane Van Sagi with the US, Jack Berglund with Sweden, Heikki Ruohonen with Finland, Max Westergaard with Finland as well. So I think Finland will be a team to watch too. Like Ruohonen's gonna be playing pretty
Top
significant
6 for sure.
minutes for them, so he might be able to have a pretty big tournament. And I think, the World Junior tournaments like this are really interesting. Despite even when there aren't like Flyers prospects to key in on, but this is probably one of the most studded like Flyers prospect World Juniors in a while. So there's going to be a lot of guys you can kind of watch from game to game where there's like a Flyers impact.
I
So
think
it's going to be.
Westergaard could have a big impact for Finland too.
Yeah, exactly. He's a scoring winger. So I'm interested to kind of see what all these guys kind of bring to the table. Obviously, Martone's going to be the big focus. He's going to be top line on Canada, or at least is right now. But there's some other guys, right, that I think are going to be playing prominent roles on their team. So don't sleep on them and kind of what they might be able to do in this tournament and how important this tournament can be for development, right? Like you're playing in these top six roles. You
Against
have
the
a really
best players in your
Yeah,
age
in
group.
your
Yeah.
age group. So like you have a really good tournament. This could be like a spark for a player in terms of like, okay, my career's kind of rocketing forward from this point, right? So we'll
Well, we
kind of
talk.
see.
I'm sorry to cut you off. I'm just saying. I wanted to add to that. We talk so much about the impact of the NCAA and playing against older guys. The amount of talent that is in the World Juniors, like Vasili was saying, it's all of the best players from that age group. So everybody in it is good. Yes,
Yeah,
there's like
always.
countries that are not very good, but when you get down to the top teams, like those final games with Sweden and what would have been Russia as well back in the day, Finland, Canada, United States, right? Like those are all like top players from the world, like
Yeah.
potential superstars in the NHL. And some of these guys could play in the NHL today, like Porter Martone. So it's a really good tournament.
Yeah, and right now I just wanted to mention sorry, my dog's making his entrance, but yeah, I just wanted to mention the oh, one sec here, sorry. He's tangling everything up. He just wanted to be involved in the World Junior conversation.
Yeah,
Uh, but yeah, here's
he's
Canada's
excited.
lines. He's excited, definitely. He's excited for Martone. But here's Canada's lines from last game. It's not surprising they moved McKenna down because you have Tisha Ginla, Michael Misa, and Martone on one line, so that's pretty self-explanatory. Then you had Gavin McKenna, Michael Haig, and Brady Martin. You got Cole Reshny and Cole Boydance, the two Coles, and then Luchenko on their right wing there. And then the fourth line was Liam Greentree, Braden Coots, and Sam O'Reilly. So interesting to me that Luchenko's on the right wing. I wonder if like it'll be more of a switch between him and Boydan in terms of like the center position. So
Yeah, and I just looked up the lines for Finland. So as of right now, This is for yeah. So the official roster is set. This is what they have as the lines right now. I don't know if these are actually going to be the consistent lines, but Ruhonen is third line
Okay.
center, and then Westergaard is an extra forward at the moment. So we'll see how that plays out. But
Yeah.
that's their official roster. I mean, it's cool that a fifth round pick
I
and a fourth round pick both made the team, though. I mean, that's
No, definitely.
also a good sign.
That's really good. What's your consensus for the World Juniors? What are we seeing in terms of a final? Do you have
Yeah.
anybody that you think's
I
gonna come out on
mean,
top?
I think it comes down to the big three, especially without Russia involved.
Always, yeah.
It's going to be U.S., Canada, and Sweden. And the fact that Sweden beat Canada the other night, I wouldn't be surprised if they end up taking because they have some big names on there as well. And I'm not like exceptional with the list of names, but they have Stenberg, Frondell, who I really believe in.
Yeah,
Eklund's on there.
he's gonna have a big tournament,
Uh,
Frondell, I'd
Jack
imagine.
Berglund is listed as third line center as of right now. So, but
I think Canada, I mean, I'm biased. I'm obviously Canadian. I think Canada's going to bounce back. They had a really terrible showing last season. I think they got eliminated in the quarterfinals, or maybe the semis, but either way, they didn't make it as far as they should have. A lot of questionable picks in terms of like who they brought to the tournament, like leaving guys off who are top goal scorers, like a Michael Misa, for example. So I think they've kind of learned from that. I think it'll be a Canada-US final. That's my guess here.
yeah. So last game, Jack Berglund actually played top line left wing. So that's what I mean. These lines that I'm looking at are
Well,
probably not
it's
accurate.
pre-tournament, so I'd imagine that a lot of the coaches are just trying things to see kind of what combinations work, right?
Yeah,
So,
but Berglund is going to be in the mix, probably top six mix. Like I'm looking at like media roster versus like the actual game roster. The media
okay.
roster has him as third line center penciled in. They also have Bjork as a 17-year-old. Vigo Bjork is
That's
17
a
years
good
old
name. That's a
and
great name.
centering Sweden's top line. So if a 17-year-old is able to do that, I would imagine this kid is probably going to be something special, especially with the names that they have available on the roster. So that's pretty cool. I mean, I always underestimate Sweden and Finland, and then always proven wrong. So, like, part of me thinks that Finland or Sweden could end up upsetting either one of the North American giants.
It's definitely possible, yeah.
But USA is also really good, so I don't
I
know.
think between those four, it'll definitely be like interesting to see what team comes out on top, but that's probably going to be the four in the mix. Because Czechia, I just think they're a little bit of a step below in terms of the World Junior competition. But yeah,
Yeah.
it really sucks. Like me and my buddies were talking about this, like just in terms of the Olympics coming up with Russia. Like it just not having them in these tournaments, it really makes it less interesting, unfortunately.
Yeah, it
Because
bums me out, to be
yeah,
honest.
like it just sucks that you don't have some like another team that would also
The
add.
Fragan would be the goalie.
Yeah, well, it would be interesting to watch him. Probably Ilya Pautov would be on that team too, in some respects. So yeah, like a couple prospects we don't get to see, but I just think like it makes the competition when Russia's in there so much more better. It's such a more competitive tournament. So many more question marks. Like they could be that
I
team that could
mean,
come in and
you're
win and
you're
upset,
missing
right?
10% of the top talent in the tournament, maybe
Yeah.
more.
And then for the Olympics, it's even worse because like think about how like this Russia this
Some of the best
the
players in the world are not getting to play.
well, just imagine like a line you could have a line of Kucherov and Kaprizov together, like Shesterkin and
Michkov would
net.
probably be on that team, Russia.
Yeah,
Demidov would
exactly.
be on it.
But I just imagine like that Russian team, like they could probably give the USA or Canada a run for their money with the talent. So just like in terms of the Olympic tournament, that's just one aspect of it that you're not going to be able to kind of see. So even though it's best on
They,
best,
they have the
is it
best.
really?
They have
Yeah.
the best goalie combination. Well,
Shesterkin, Sorokin, yeah, exactly.
Shesterkin, Sorokin, Brizgalov. No, no,
Bobrovsky.
Bobrovsky, Brizgalov, Bobrovsky. Just the three off the top of my
Who would
head.
even start? I don't even know who you would
I
start.
would
I guess
imagine it'd be
Bob.
Shesterkin, to be honest with you. But yeah, maybe it would be Bob. I have no
Yeah, it would
idea.
be tough. It'd be tough to pick because you're like, well, you have Shesterkin. He's technically better by the numbers, but Bob just won a cup, so it's like, who do you?
Yeah, Russia's weakness has always been defense with the where they always had a good defense, but they lacked the same, like their strength was always goal scoring and
Yeah.
goaltending. So, again, incredibly dangerous team. Um,
Hopefully
I don't
we'll
know, man.
see them re-enter at some point just to make the tournaments more exciting, unpredictable. Because now, like you said, with World Juniors, it's pretty clear cut. Like, well, you got these 4 teams. Whereas you add Russia in the mix, like who knows what would have happened, right? So
We'll have to wait for next Olympics for that one.
yeah.
All right. I think that's it for us. Anything you want to leave the audience with, my friend?
No, I just hope everybody has a great Christmas and New Year and Hanukkah and whatever holiday they celebrate. Enjoy the time with your families. And check out flyersnittygritty.com when you have a sec during all the downtime.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Just one more time, remind you to please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for notification, get notified when we release these episodes. And for the audio version, go to Spotify and iTunes, give us a rating and a follow. Again, that is the best way to support this show. If you made it this far and you have not done that so far, we humbly appreciate it if you could take the time to do those things. And also make sure to check out flyersnittygritty.com. And you can also follow us on X, even though I'm on there pretty sparingly now. But yeah, make sure to check us out on all the social media sites. We're on there too for Flyers Nitty Gritty. And also sponsors, Jim Steaks of 4th and South. Make sure to go get yourself a cheesesteak from Jim's. They have one of the best, if not the best, cheesesteak in Philadelphia. Shout out to Public Summit Adjusters, 215-752-0560. Go to them for your insurance adjustment needs. It will help facilitate the process between you and your insurance company. Excuse me. And make sure you get the best claim possible. Again, Public Summit Adjusters, 215-752-0560. Shout out to sportspider.com. They are our partners. They aggregate content from all over the internet, sports content, videos, articles, podcasts, everything's there in our stuff because their partners are pinned at the top when we release it. And the link to that is available both in the video and audio version descriptions. So please make sure to check out sportspider.com. Just like Vasili was saying, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everybody. Again, I'm Jewish, but Christmas is awesome. I hope you guys all enjoy it. I will be finding some Jewish stuff to do during then. I'm just joking. I'll be with my family probably as well. But yeah, we love you guys. Thank you for making it this far with us. Looking forward to our New Year's episode as well. Love you guys. And remember, always stay gritty.